Hey ladies and gentlemen, great to see you again. I do have another video blog for you. This time it's on the Manifest Destiny. Okay, an incredible time during the U.S. History 1. Okay, so start her off. Now, what is Manifest Destiny? It's very important. It's the belief that the U.S. should expand its territory from coast to coast, from the Atlantic to the Pacific. It's an incredible time during this era because you're going to have people that are going to take everything they own in New England, for example, and other places on the original 13 colonies, and they're going to actually go west. They're going to go west. They're not going to know where they're going to settle. They're not going to know what's going to be there when they get there, but they're just going to go west because the land is cheap. And we talk about the gold rush with in 1849. What ends up happening is that people go, they get gold fever, they go sell their stuff, and they go right to it, and they in hopes of getting gold. Alright, so here's what it originally looked like, right? So here we're going to go step by step by how America became how it is today, how the United States gets formed in the shape it is today. Okay, first part we have A. We have the 13 original colonies. Okay, when 1776, where Great Britain. Why? Because U.S. declared independence from Great Britain. Fought a whole war of it. Remember American Revolution? What we do. So then we got B, the Western lands, right? That's after we win the American Revolution, 1783. Great Britain, we got it from them. And the reason why we did was because the Treaty of Paris, the end of the Revolutionary War, that allowed us to go further west. Okay, so remember we had the proclamation line that said when we were part of a colony, Great Britain said you can't go west. We win the war, we go west, and we want to see what's out there. Okay, one of the biggest and most famous ones that we acquire of land is the Louisiana Purchase, 1803. Again, we got it from France. We talked about earlier in the year, Napoleon needed money, sells it to Thomas Jefferson for a mere $15 million as a bargain. And then the reason why Jefferson really wanted it was because New Orleans is right down there. New Orleans being a huge port, okay, for these ships trading and everything else. I mean, it's at the mouth of the Mississippi. Literally, Mississippi runs right through um, America at this point, and when it does, that's huge. It's trading all along its little river coasts, and so instead of just buying New Orleans, which he originally wanted, he Napoleon offered him the whole thing. Because remember, the slave revolt down in Hispaniola had totally gotten French out, so he really had no place to supplies into Louisiana to take over the U.S. because Napoleon wanted the world. But nevertheless, good to know. Okay, that's C. D, we get Florida. Remember, 1819. That's when we get it from Spain. And why? It's because Andrew Jackson. Well, he did invade it. Um, and again, that was a huge internationalist, and we talked about earlier in the year. But Spain does eventually sell it to us for $5 million. So kind of think for a second, why weren't Americans happy with the size of the country, right? At this point in history, like why do we keep want to go west? Is that part of the American spirit, the pioneering spirit? Alrighty, now here's the man of the hour. We got James K. Polk, okay? Mr. Manifest Destiny himself. He's elected president in 1844. He added more territory to the U.S. by any means necessary than any other president has, period. Okay? Still to this day. He unfortunately he does die 103 days after a single term had ended. But nevertheless, he does an amazing job. And again, we don't get too much in this one about the Mexican-American War, but that is how he does acquire some land. So we get Texas. Okay, Texas was the Republic of Texas. It was an independent country, 1845. They were independent from Mexico in 1836. Okay, they were part of Mexico. What ended up happening is that when Texas wanted to become part of the United States, because again, in reality, when you think like what country is going to stay surrounded by the United States and really not join? Because in all honesty, it could, excuse me, so many things could happen. So what ends up happening, of course, is that they want to join. Problem is, northern states go, oh no, you want to you allow slavery, Texas. We're not letting you in. You're going to balance that scale. Remember we talked about that scale between free states and slave states. Okay, you don't want that scale to tip at all. They want to keep it even. But finally, fears were overcome in 1844 in the presidential election. What ends up happening, of course, is that we do allow Texas to come in. Okay, Polk does allow that. We do get Oregon, 1846, okay, from Great Britain. Now, Oregon was kind of a mess of things, okay? It was claimed by four countries: Great Britain, Russia, Spain, and the U.S. So what's up happening is that we demanded it, right? So eventually Russia, Spain pull out. They don't feel there's anything really there for them. So then you have Great Britain and the U.S., okay, both owning this territory. We were going to go to war with Great Britain again, okay? Even though we won the last two wars, technically, from Great Britain, we really didn't do good after the wars because they had just devastated us so much. So what ends up happening, of course, is that we are almost going to go to war ourselves and we say 54-40, you fight. But Britain does compromise at the 49-degree parallel, and the U.S. accepted it. And then, of course, that's how it gets that border today. The rest of it was in Canada. Okay, you have Mexican cession. That's 1848. This is when we fought a war over. Okay, so again, we got it from Mexico. Polk offers to buy Mexican cession from Mexico. They refuse. So of course, war. Make a long story short, the U.S. wins, and in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, or Guadalupe Hidalgo, the U.S. offers $15 million for the Mexican cession. Again, another bargain for the amount of land that we get. Okay. Now, just think for a second. Now, why does the U.S. keep offering countries money for territories we gain through war? Think about that for a second. Why would... Okay. Now, maps come about in this time. It's very important because, of course, with maps, we're going to chart out these new territories, and that's how we're really going to start to know what's going on, okay? You guys should remember this from your maps, but of course we did the Oregon Trail. Again, for the most part, it lasts about 6 months, the journey altogether, about 3,000 miles. If you're going from Oregon, from the northern states over to Oregon, okay, it's about 300,000 to 500,000 went west on this large mass migration in U.S. history. It's incredible. It's one of the most traveled trails that has ever been during this era, okay? And again, if you look at the map right there, it does span quite a bit. Okay, so there's a couple, I kind of, visited it myself. So I got a couple, little photos there. It's a wagon they would use. There's ruts from the wagons, okay, left in the desert that were heading west that is still there to this day. That's how many had passed through on this. And again, you can physically see that rut. They made their own paths. And again, the trail you can sit around. We got a lot of wild animals roaming free. We got 60, if you can imagine, 60 million buffaloes, okay? 1.5 million horses, okay? Prairie dogs, elks, deer, cougars, coyotes, we got them all, okay? And see, some there. Kind of cool, some horses. And again, all these guys too, okay? And bears. Gotta watch out for those bears. So again, one thing you might want to remember while you study for this quiz is that, of course, you want to know a little bit more also about the 49ers. Remember, the 49ers are going to be people going out in 1849 to California to find gold, and later they get a team named after them in football, 49ers. You also want to know about the Donner Party as well. That's the party that went out, took a shortcut. Remember, never took a shortcut, right? Actually brought them 100 miles off their course. Okay, and they were only 30 miles away from where they needed to be. Get stuck in the mountain. Remember, overnight, 5 feet of snow fall down. What ends up happening, of course? They end up beating each other and resorting to cannibalism. Okay, do know that. Do also know about the Cowboys going west. Okay, as they're going west, that's going to be a huge thing right there. About them and their ways, and that's really it. Okay, as long as you know these things, you'll be golden for the quiz. Okay. Again, this is me, Mr. Lang, saying goodbye. And again, if you have any more questions, please come see me, okay? Alright, take care, guys.